Long ago, in a kingdom wrapped in winter's soft silence, where mountains sparkled like walls of diamonds and the wind whispered secrets through pine forests, a queen sat by a window stitched with frost. As she stitched a gown of ivory silk, she gazed outside at the fresh snowfall. The snow lay unbroken and pure like a world yet untouched by sorrow. A sudden whisper of wind startled her, and her needle pricked her finger. 3 drops of blood fell upon the white sill, blooming like ruby petals on snow. The queen paused, mesmerized. She whispered softly as though speaking a wish into a dream. "I wish for a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as the ebony window frame." And the cold world listened. Not many months passed before her wish blossomed into life. A baby girl was born, more beautiful than the queen had ever imagined. Her tiny cheeks glowed with rosy warmth, her jet black hair curled like silk ribbons around her face, and her skin shone like winter snow bathed in morning light. They named her Snow White, but joy, as fickle as a snowflake in sunlight, melted too soon. The queen fell ill, her strength fading like breath on glass, and before winter thawed into spring, she passed away. The king mourned for many years, his palace darkened by loneliness, but grief makes hearts vulnerable to illusions. In time, he married again, a woman breathtaking in beauty, but her heart was carved from cold stone. Her pride was boundless, her vanity fierce, and she possessed a mirror unlike any other, one that did not lie. Every morning, she stood before it, draped in gowns that shimmered like ice, and demanded, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror, bound by magic, always replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." Snow White grew, her beauty unfolding like a secret rose. She was gentle, kind to all creatures, and her laughter carried warmth into the cold corridors of the castle. As she blossomed from child to maiden, the court admired her grace. Whispers traveled the kingdom like falling leaves. She is lovelier than the queen. Beauty is harmless until it becomes a threat, and jealousy is a poison that drinks the heart dry. One morning, the queen asked her mirror again, pride lifting her chin. But the mirror trembled with truth and answered, "My queen, you are fair, 'tis true. But Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen's heart cracked like thin ice. Rage burned in her cold veins, and her envy coiled like a serpent. She could not bear a rival. She summoned a royal huntsman, a man loyal yet trembling beneath her icy stare. "Take her to the deep forest," she hissed softly with a smile that masked cruelty. "Kill her. Bring me her heart as proof." The huntsman bowed, unable to refuse though shame scorched him. Snow White, innocent and trusting, followed the huntsman into the woods with a basket of berries and a hopeful smile. The forest swallowed them. Sunlight broke into shattered gold through branches, birds chattered, and leaves rustled as though holding their breath. When they reached the darkest part, where trees stood like silent guardians and the world smelled of earth and moss, the huntsman stopped. His hands shook. Snow White turned to him, sensing fear. "Why do you look upon me so?" she whispered. He dropped to his knees, tears spilling. "Forgive me, princess. The queen commanded your death." "I cannot obey her wickedness." Snow White's breath caught. Her world cracked like frozen glass. "Run," he urged, voice trembling. "Run far and never return." He let her flee, then slayed a deer to deceive the queen. Snow White ran until her breath burned and tears froze on her cheeks. Darkness wrapped the woods. Laughter turned to whispers of danger. Glowing eyes blinked from shadows, and every branch seemed a claw reaching for her. She stumbled sobbing until exhaustion struck her down. When moonlight spilled across the world like silver paint, she rose and saw a tiny cottage nestled between trees like a secret tucked into nature's hand. The door was small, the windows round like shy eyes, and inside the furnishings were little and charming. 7 plates, 7 cups, 7 spoons, 7 tiny chairs in a neat row. Dust lay across tables, crumbs scattered like fallen petals. Snow White, weary and trembling, tidied gently, swept floors, set dishes in place, and curled up to sleep across 3 little beds pushed together. Her breath grew steady, and peace returned to her heart. When dawn brushed gold across the treetops, 7 miners returned from the mountains, whistling and laughing with pickaxes slung across their shoulders, jewels clinking in their pockets. They were dwarfs, each with eyes bright as gems and spirits as hardy as the earth they labored in. But when they entered their home, their laughter froze. "Someone's touched my plate," cried one. "And my chair," squeaked another. "Someone's sleeping in our beds," whispered the smallest. They tiptoed into the bedroom and gasped at the sight of the sleeping maiden, glowing like a fallen star. Snow White woke to their curious faces and sat up, startled but unafraid. Her gentle voice soothed their surprise. She told her sorrowful tale, tears shining like dew. The dwarfs exchanged troubled glances, for they knew the queen's cruelty. "Stay with us," they pleaded. "We will protect you." She accepted gratefully, and a new life began. Simple, peaceful, filled with birdsong, wildflowers and friendship. Each dawn, the dwarves marched to the mountain, singing and whistling, leaving Snow White with gentle warnings. "Beware strangers. The queen's heart knows only poison," Snow White promised. She cooked for them, swept their cottage, sang sweetly, and befriended creatures. Deer peeked through windows, rabbits nibbled at crumbs by her feet, and birds perched upon her shoulders to hear her songs. But evil travels quicker than kindness. The queen, believing Snow White dead, asked her mirror once more, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror, bound to truth, replied, "Snow White lives in the forest with 7 dwarfs. She is 1,000 times fairer than you." Rage pierced the queen like a dagger. Her envy twisted into hatred. "She shall not escape me," she whispered, voice venomous. She disguised herself as a peddler woman, hunched and wrinkled, draped in rags. With a basket of silk laces, she crept to the dwarf's cottage. Snow White opened the door, trusting innocence shining in her eyes. "Good day, dear girl," croaked the queen. "Try a lovely lace? Fit for a princess." Snow White admired the shimmering ribbon. The disguised queen tightened it around her waist, pretending to help. But suddenly she pulled cruelly, tightening with merciless strength until breath fled Snow White's lips and she collapsed. Laughing softly, the queen slipped away. When the dwarfs returned, they found Snow White pale as marble, breath shallow. With trembling hands, they loosened the laces and life returned to her. "You must not trust strangers," they cried. Snow White promised, sorrowful, but hatred does not rest. Again the queen asked her mirror. Again she learned Snow White lived. Enraged beyond reason, she brewed a potion, disguising herself as a bent old woman selling combs. She returned to the cottage. Snow White, gentle always, allowed her in. "Try this beautiful comb," the false woman whispered. As she placed it in Snow White's hair, poison seeped into her scalp. Snow White fell like a wilting flower. Again the queen fled, believing victory hers. The dwarfs came home, hearts breaking at the sight, but they removed the poisoned comb and revived her. "Do not open the door again," they begged, voices trembling with fear. Snow White vowed with tears. But evil is patient and relentless. A third time the queen sought truth from the mirror. A third time she heard Snow White's name, and she vowed to end her once and for all. In her chambers, she crafted a poisoned apple, red as a ruby, shining with wicked promise. One bite meant eternal sleep. Disguised again, she returned, knocking softly. Snow White hesitated, remembering her promise. "Go away," she said through the door. But the queen smiled kindly. "Just an apple, my dear. I'll share it with you." She cut the fruit, offering Snow White the red half and keeping the white. Snow White, believing kindness still existed in strangers, accepted and bit into the red flesh. Sweetness met her tongue, then darkness claimed her. She fell, still beautiful, lips red as roses, hair black as raven's wings, skin pale as snow, but breath gone, heart silent. The queen left, triumph curling her lips. The dwarfs returned to grief so heavy it crushed their spirits. They could not bury her. She looked not dead but sleeping, glowing like a dream preserved. They placed her in a glass coffin, engraved with gold letters, and kept watch. Forest creatures gathered, birds songless, deer bowing heads, rabbits trembling. Seasons turned, snow fell, flowers bloomed, and still she lay untouched by time, beauty frozen like eternal winter. One day, a prince traveling through the mountains heard rumors of a maiden sleeping in crystal. He followed whispers until he reached the dwarf's clearing. When he saw Snow White, his heart shattered and mended at once. Never had he seen such purity, such peaceful grace. He felt as though he had known her in another life, as though fate had sewn their souls from the same cloth. He begged the dwarfs, "Let me take her to my castle. I cannot bear to leave her here forgotten." The dwarfs, hearts heavy but trusting his sincerity, agreed. As his servants lifted the coffin, one stumbled. The coffin shook. The piece of poisoned apple lodged in Snow White's throat dislodged. With a gasping breath, she awakened, life rushing back like spring after endless winter. Her eyes fluttered open, filled with light. The prince fell to his knees, the